in solo leveling. After Jinwoo sliced Raken the Fang Monarch's hand clean off, he suddenly looked behind as Queratia slammed her Green Lantern construct into the ground, attempting to squish him like a bug. But seeing as how she missed, she definitely looked mad now. Raken then regenerated his missing arm with the reverse curse technique, making Jinwoo take a deep breath since this was his toughest battle yet. 3 monarchs against 1. This definitely wasn't a fair battle. They really out here jumping my mans. But as everything felt lost, a crack in the ice appeared out of nowhere, as a shadow soldier's hand can be seen breaking out of its shackles. Jinwoo then turned around, as the one and only Shadow Commander Baru rushed towards Jinwoo, shouting, "My liege!" And in overwhelming fury, Baru yelled, asking how dare they lay a hand on his king, calling them mere insects. The Frost Monarch, confused, questioned how a mere shadow soldier was able to break out of his binding spell and how a commander-level entity was produced by a human. Raken, in shock, went on to add that every single one of the Shadow Monarch's commander-level soldiers is basically a god of destruction. But Queratia wasn't having none of this, saying that a child who fails to recognize their own mother must be punished. She then extended her arm, attempting to attack Baru, but him only wanting to go help his liege, called her a crazy bee, slashing away her construct. The Plague Monarch looked like she was about to break a fuse, asking what the hell he just called her. Baru then arrived kneeling before his king, and while sobbing extensively, he said that he was truly second to none. He had been able to stand his ground against these 3 transcendent beings alone, and he, his humble servant, is in constant awe of his greatness. And seeing as how they were distracted, the insect humans took the chance to jump the monarch and his servant all of a sudden, but they easily counterattacked, dismembering them to pieces. But in an instant, the Queen of Insects came from behind, piercing right through Baru, surprising Jinwoo, slamming him away through multiple skyscrapers with immense strength. Bro cannot catch a break. As ice spears rained from the sky heading straight for Sung Jinwoo, he was hit with multiple attacks point blank, making him start swinging his daggers faster than the eye could see in order to block the onslaught of projectiles. Jinwoo did not look happy about this, and as he was beginning to be buried in a sea of ice, the Frost Monarch went on to ask him how much longer he would be able to endure their combined attacks. But Jinwoo, not wanting to hear all that yapping, suddenly launched a dagger, hitting the Frost Monarch straight in the chest. And while standing there with a cold pose, he said that he had already told him that he wouldn't be making it out of here alive. Falling for the provocation, the Frost Monarch responded, shouting, calling him an impudent human. How dare he say that to him, a monarch? Jinwoo just ignored all his yapping and was instead surprised by the fact that even though he just stabbed him in the heart, it wasn't enough to cause a fatal injury. Jinwoo then launched a series of attacks, including his Kamish's dagger's aerial slash, combined with his shadow magic, heading straight for the Frost Monarch, hitting him dead on. But then the Frost Monarch started grinning nervously, almost like he had won. Raken the Monarch of Fangs then suddenly appeared right behind Jinwoo in the fraction of a second, and then summoned his spatial inventory, pulling out a blade, then using said blade to slash Jinwoo right at his back. Oh, what a cowardly move he just pulled. Jinwoo then spewed blood because of the fatal attack, making Baru shout, saying, "My king!" But behind Baru's back was none other than Queratia, introducing herself as the Monarch of Plagues. She then said that she was the mother of all insects that reside in the world of chaos, saying that she would embrace Baru as her child, even if he didn't recognize her. But Baru wasn't trying to hear all that shouting at the monarch to let him go. Raken then stood over Jinwoo, saying that this was the end. Baru started tweaking out, shouting at the other shadow soldiers, asking what the hell they were doing, telling them to hurry up and help their king immediately. Greed, being held by the Frost Monarch's binding spell, went on to say that he would be the one to unalive all his enemies, breaking out of the ice with the might of his strength. Surprised by the fact he managed to get free, Raken said that that thing must have been a pretty strong warrior during its lifetime, as the Frost Monarch went on to say that the higher-ranking soldiers have begun to awaken, and in an instant, Tusk, Igris, and Iron shattered the ice, freeing themselves, getting ready to fight against their master's enemies. But the Frost Monarch said that unfortunately, playtime was over, and it was already too late, for his wound is deep and fatal. "Oh, this?" Drippy Woo responded as he began to stand up, shocking both the Frost and Fang monarchs as he activated status recovery, getting back to full HP. Surprise, motherfuckers! Drizzy Woo's battle was being live-streamed across the world. New York in the US, London in the UK, Shanghai in the country I can't name, and Paris in France. It was truly the fight of the century. The energy produced by the battlefield was completely overwhelming the city of Seoul, as anomalies can be seen changing the sky, making Leonard Nierman say in shock that a storm was raging with Rizzy Woo at the center of it. Thomas Andre, currently being treated by healers, asked Leonard to tell him what was happening in a shaking voice. He responded saying that it felt like he was witnessing the end of the world. Baek Yoon-ho, staring into the distance, went on to question if this was really the Drippy Woo he used to know, saying that he was aware that he had the ability to grow, but this was on a whole nother level, and asked himself just how much stronger had he gotten in such a short amount of time. Igris suddenly clashed with the Beast King as he was attempting to defend himself against Iron. At the other end, the Frost Monarch summoned an ice wall blocking Greed's attack and counteracting Tusk's magic. Beru then finally managed to break free from Queratia's grasp, making her angry ASF attempting to attack him with his claws. But Drippy Woo suddenly came from behind, saying that the architect had prophesied that a pillar of fire holding up the world would end up unaliving him. But what he didn't tell him was whether or not that pillar would fall, slicing the Plague Monarch's face in 4 different sections. The city of Seoul was engulfed in a sea of flames, as Lim Tae-gyu, the guild leader of the Fiend Guild, said that even though he's been waiting in position to take a shot, it felt like he shouldn't be interfering in this fight. 30 minutes ago, the elite assassins of the Fiend Guild were deployed to several locations in the area, and once they receive the signal, they're supposed to barrage the target with supporting fire to, hopefully, inflict a lethal blow on the enemy. But Lim Tae-gyu asked himself how many of them would survive if that were to happen. They would die if the attack failed, and they would die if the attack succeeded. They were literally cooked either way, since not even Thomas Andre could stop that monster, saying that it was about time they made a decision. But someone suddenly put his hand on Taegyu's shoulder, scaring the absolute shit out of him as the man told him to just watch. Taegyu quickly turned around as fast as he could, asking who's there, but he couldn't believe his eyes to what laid before him. None of the hunters who came to defeat the beasts and evacuate the civilians have been able to interfere in the ongoing fight. They were just waiting for things to quickly settle down. And as Drippy Woo landed on the ground after slashing Queratia, it seemed like it wouldn't be long before the battle comes to an end. Then the baddest monarch of all time started rematerializing with a grin on her face, suddenly shooting an attack straight towards him. Nonchalantly, Rizzy Woo then asked if this was poison, as the system informed him that deadly poison effects were present in the atmosphere. Drippy Woo tilted his head, saying that poison didn't work on him, as the system then told him that the buff detoxification had been activated, and he was now being healed. Queratia then started crashing out, calling him an arrogant bastard, and as she launched herself towards him, she said that she would be ripping him to shreds. In solo leveling, after the Monarch of Plagues crashed out saying she would be ripping Drippy Woo to shreds, she suddenly froze in place as soon as she was about to attack, as Drippy Woo activated his ability, Ruler's Authority. Queratia then gritted her teeth in absolute shock over the overwhelming power binding her, shouting that she couldn't break free from it at all. And in a fraction of a second, Drippy Woo suddenly popped in, appearing right in front of her, activating his exclusive skill, Mutilation. She definitely knew then and there that she was absolutely cooked, as she was hit with hundreds of slashes in an instant faster than the eye could see, as Drippy Woo landed on the ground with a cold ah pose. The Monarch of Plagues, nearing her end, asked herself if this was what death felt like. It was a heavy darkness that left even beings like them who were created from darkness in awe. "What a brilliant darkness this is," she went on to say, as she disappeared into nothingness. The system then informed him that he had defeated one of the 9 monarchs, Queratia, the Monarch of Plagues, telling him that he had raised his level 3 entire times. The Monarch of Frost, seeing the sight before him, asked how this could be, saying that he was sure he didn't have full control over the Shadow Monarch's power yet. questioning if they would once again experience the horror of facing the most powerful king that ruled over chaos. The Monarch of Fangs then asked what he was afraid of, saying that he was exhausted, and moreover, the fact that he had been relying on these soldiers proves that he's incomplete, saying that an incomplete monarch could not stop them, the true monarchs. Raken held Beru by the throat, sucking the life out of him, making Drippy Woo sense that his presence was fading. He then questioned if this was the same move he used to get rid of the soldier he assigned to Thomas Andre, quickly attempting to cancel the summon, telling Beru to come back. But unfortunately, the system informed him that the specified target could not be recalled. Drippy Woo suddenly dashed towards him in the fraction of a second, getting him to let go as he attempted to dodge the attack. Drippy Woo then absorbed Beru into his shadow, saying that he's managed to prevent him from being destroyed, but the Frost Monarch looked dead serious, telling the Monarch of Fangs that he was right. And in an instant, a huge glacier of ice towered above the skyscrapers of the city of Seoul, creating an enormous iceberg engulfing the city. The King of the Ice Elves then said that he had overestimated the powers of the human, and as he summoned his weapon, getting into his combat form, he told Drizzy Woo that even if he used his mana to control these puppets, it would be all over once his strings were cut, saying that he would ensnare his puppets as they continuously recover, resurrecting themselves, turning his soldiers into parasites, eating away at his mana. The Frost Monarch then launched his trident towards my glorious king, asking what he would do, striking Drippy Woo straight at his shoulder with overwhelming strength. The trident managed to inflict a painful blow, but the Frost Monarch wasn't finished yet, as he started lifting up the trident, bringing Drippy Woo along with it. The Frost Monarch then turned around, slamming him into the ground with immeasurable strength, but he suddenly noticed that he was nowhere to be seen. The Monarch was confused about this outcome, until Drippy Woo suddenly appeared in an instant, attempting to pierce his dagger right through the Monarch's face. The Frost Monarch quickly counterattacked, landing a blow right on the side of his gut, flinging him away with all his might. But fortunately, he managed to land on the ground safely as he gasped for air, thinking that he was really fast. Seeing how tired and damaged the Shadow Monarch's successor looked after taking his blow, the Frost Monarch said that it seemed like his spiritual body manifestation consumed a great deal of mana, saying that now he would be finishing him off quickly.